Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the weekly live stream for the Restitutor Orbis channel. I'm your host, Lucius Aurelian, and we are going to be discussing the great game of life. And I would like to extend a welcome to all joining us, all Prime Explorers, and other viewers of the channel. This is going to be your opportunity to ask me all the questions that you like when we get to it. But before we get there, I thought we would actually talk about the concept of the great game of life, and I'll do the individual conversations with you later when we get to the Q&A session. So what's the whole concept behind the great game of life? Well, to lead us off, I remember about, it was 12 years ago, 13 years ago, give or take, I came across this book called The Master Game. And this was when I was still affiliated with academia. Now, you might be surprised to find out what the Master Game is about if you're not familiar with it. Unmasking the secret rulers of the world. Well, this appealed to me. And this is when I was still more or less in a, how shall we say, nascent phase of my alternative perspective and research. And who wrote The Master Game? Well, two individuals, Graham Hancock and Robert Bauval, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and if not, feel free to lampoon me in the comments. I don't know what this number 33 is all about up here, but in any event, I don't know, maybe they're a big fan of the Restaurant Club. I read this book, and I thought this was going to lay out everything, all the secrets and all this other research. Now, of course, I'd read Fingerprints of the Gods by Graham Hancock, but I couldn't help but get the feeling that this novel was, it just really wasn't saying anything. It wasn't necessarily saying anything coherent. There was a lot of examples of the Gnostics, and there was a lot of good details in it, but what was the overarching theme behind it? Now, one of the things I try to do, right, wrong, indifferent, or effectively or ineffectively, depending on your perspective, is I always try to have a theme and some points to my videos and explorations. Sometimes I succeed, sometimes I don't. I fail miserably, and it's okay to confide all that in you. So, in any event, as everyone's getting logged in, the point that I go back to with the Master Game is it's not to suggest that Graham Hancock is an awful author or that he can't write. He's actually a pretty good communicator. But what got me was the fact that it felt like this novel was not going all the way in. And I really thought that since now we have a live stream where we can all come together, we can actually talk about some of these things. And where we get this concept of the great game of life and what's it really all about. Now, I'm sure everyone's familiar with the board game of life. Does anybody or everybody remember playing this when you grew up? Wow, this looks very different than what I remember. Yes, I'll be dating myself a little bit. Although I'm glad to see they still have the plastic cars and they still have the little spinny wheel. Does anybody remember the game of life? What do you think? Sky Sage, Hancockery. Good one. Ah, yes, Kathy. You remember playing Life? Space Fraggle. Hey, Julia, good to see ya. Marine, welcome. And did you all enjoy playing the game of life, or was there something that felt a little contrived about it? I mean, I'll admit, Jamie says it was annoying. Yeah, I agree, Jamie. There were times I was annoyed with it. Sarah with an H, the board game was a childhood favorite. And I agree. There were a lot of elements about it that were quite entertaining and enjoyable. I'm Kairos. Hey, I'm Kairos. Thanks for joining us. Blue and pink pegs in your car. That's right. And that's the whole concept behind it, if you don't recall, or for those of you who didn't play it. You might remember that, let's see here, do we have a car? Yep, right here. And you start off in your car and you've got your one peg in it. And then as you go on through life and go through the wonders of life, payday, investments, college, you can pick up a spouse and you can pick up children until you end up at the Day of Reckoning. Do they still have that? I don't see it here. See, I remember the Day of Reckoning, but maybe I'm not seeing it on this board. My goodness, how they changed some of these things. Oh, at least we still have a nice old world Capitol building over here. You know, you remember when they used to have the white pieces that were set up on it, the white structures, and they had like an old world building? Well, I'm shooting from the hip. Perhaps I could have found it if I looked a little bit more. I just thought I would show you the modern version because I was rather surprised at all the changes. And believe me, there's many subtle changes. But why am I highlighting the game of life? Well, does it ever feel like sometimes we are playing a game of life? Does it ever feel like sometimes your life is a game? Ah, Net, we played Chutes and Ladders. That was a good one, too. And don't forget Sorry. So, Robert, I like Mousetrap much better. Yes, and that's probably even a better analogy than the game of life, Robert. No doubt about it. Conway's Game of Life. Oh, yes, ever so true. And Kathy, it's all a game. Yes, and that's kind of the theme behind what we're going to be talking about initially before we go to the Q&A session. How much of a game is it? What's it all about? Ah, yes, and some of you are talking about Risk. And then Kit says we all play Monopoly. Yeah, this is true. And it's intriguing how many of these games have details of what we do in our everyday lives, depending on what path that we actually take. Life is just very literal with it. So, Hollis, what's that battery-powered game that looks like Hyperborea? I'm not sure. Are you talking? It's been a while since I played my board games, and I'll just confide in all of you. The last one I think I played full up was Robotech way back in the day, but I wouldn't call that a board game. It's a tabletop game. Big difference. I know. I'm geeking out here. So, but anyways, you look at the concept of the game of life, and you think about all the things that you do in it, and you also think about how it matches or how it's analogous to your own life. You think of all these critical events. Right here. Stop, get married. Yes, no, career, payday, and all the other difficulties or challenges that come with it. Whether you decide to get married, whether you decide to go on with your career being an academic professor, or whether you decide to just say, forget it, I'm leaving and I can't take it anymore, and, I'd just rather do my own thing. But we all make our own decisions in life, and everyone, of course, wants us to reconsider our decisions. That's part of the game of life. And not 1 second, especially in this day and age, do you go by without somebody trying to, how shall we say, criticize, or perhaps give some constructive criticism, as they say it. Or one of my favorite covers for that, I say this out of love. Yeah, have you ever heard that? I say this out of love. I'm going to criticize you and I'm going to put you down, but I say it out of love. Yeah, that's one of my favorites. But it's all deceptive speech, and there's a lot of deception that actually comes to some more insidious elements of control. Now, is it intentional control or is it unintentional control? Well, it could be both. Now, I'm not pointing fingers here about the whole gender thing and everything else that we've got going. I'm not addressing that at all, because guess what? Everybody does it to everybody else. Individuals do it to other individuals. Institutions do it to individuals. Governments do it to individuals, right, wrong, or different. They say they have good reasons for doing it, but it all starts here. And really, if you think about it, it all starts with what one individual does to another. Everything else becomes possible because of that. And oddly enough, it can be reflected in the game of life. Or what other game that you played? Sky Sage. Confirm or be cast out. Ever so true. Confirm, conform. Confirm to conform or be cast out. It's all good. I actually kind of like the confirm because you have to confirm to conform. In any event. So, yeah, and Jamie says it right there. Obey. And say it in the Dalek voice, since we've been talking about Doctor Who a lot. So, oh, there's a good one from Jay. No offense, but you fill in the blank. Yes. So many different sayings and so many different ways that you can throw things on people. Now, like I said, it's just examples. I'm talking in generalities here. So, we're not going in depth yet. Now, you might have recognized, and maybe you didn't, there was actually a Triumph album, Triumph, the great Canadian band, trio rockers, or was it a quartet? Kidding, I think it was a trio, right? Yeah, I actually had a thing for Canadian bands, and no, I'm not Canadian at all, as you well know. I never actually lived in Canada, but, I do appreciate Canadians. I've worked with Canadians, and I like William Shatner as an actor. Don't know how he is as a person, but I did like the way he portrayed Captain Kirk, but enough of that. Anyway, the Triumph band did several interesting songs, and if you ever listen to their lyrics, one of their primary albums, Just a Game, this is from the 1970s, kind of a, I guess, progressive rock is what they'd call them, guitar rock, if you really want to think of the genre, and if you haven't listened to Triumph, very interesting band. And if you really study the lyrics, whether it's from Triumph, Rush, or really many different bands, Led Zeppelin, from the 1970s, you'll get all kinds of interesting little details and little things about it that give you some hints. And I thought that their album, Just a Game, and then the lyrics of the like song, we're going to look into and analyze here in a second. But very interesting album cover that kind of gives you the idea of what life is really all about. And how extensive is this game? Are we just playing this game at this individual level? Are we just thinking we're playing a game? Or is somebody else playing a game with us? Or are there multiple games going on at the same time at all levels? What are your thoughts? Sarah, my idea of progressive rock was Peter Gabriel. True. Can't go wrong with Peter Gabriel. That is very true. Rush are my all-time favorite. Yep. And Rush actually got away with, well, maybe I shouldn't say it that way. Rush actually put some very interesting symbols on many of their albums. They were a lot more direct about it. Dwayne, lay it on the line. Yeah, it's a great Triumph song. And really, they have all kinds of great basic philosophies in their lyrics. So, in any event, I figured we'd talk about a few of the lyrics from the song Just a Game. And let me make sure that you can see this all well, because we're going to look at every single lyric, because I think everyone deserves to be analyzed a little bit. Wizards of a modern age cast spells of electric power, but the corporate strings that make them dance lead up to an ivory tower. So what do you think that means? And by all means, after we're done with the live stream, go ahead and listen to these songs and really listen to how these lyrics flow together and how they, I'll say, sing them, but really it's almost like they're speaking in a way as well. It's very interesting. That's just my perception. You can see it different. That's totally fine. But what's that mean? Modern age spells, electric power, corporate strings that make them dance lead up to an ivory tower. What's that really saying? What are your thoughts on that? Robert, each of us as its own causality bubble. Yes, very true. And we do have our own causality bubble, beyond any shadow of a doubt. Hollis, the Hyperborean-shaped game was called Simon, P.S. Oh, I do remember that one, yes. Yeah, Cynthia. Kate Bush, there's another good one. She had a lot of great lyrics, so... But in any event, you actually see things spelled out a little bit, and none of this is any sort of conspiracy. We know that we're under spells of electric power. We're told things every day. We're told conflicting things the next day. And while this didn't proceed as quickly in the 1970s and the early 1980s, it still happened. But the corporate strings that make them dance. And of course, everyone's got a corporation. And the funny thing to me was, whether you had communism or capitalism, everybody had corporate organizations. They might have functioned a little differently. Whether it was a design bureau or something else, it didn't really matter. Lead up to an ivory tower. There sit the fates in solitude, far from the public eye. The fates in solitude, far from the public eye. And who are they alluding to there? Who are they really talking about? Making a very direct reference. Robert, the illusions cast to take your money. Yes. Or the illusions cast so you don't question your money being taken. Paul, is computer language the new sorcery spells? Maybe in a manner of speaking, it certainly is. Kathy. Yes, elites, controllers, many different names. I am Kairos, the unseen controllers. Yes. Now, a question I have for you all, and we've brought it up before. If you really had the power to control things, do you really have any reason to make anyone aware of your existence? For example, Maureen says corporate globalists. Why would anybody who has that kind of power make themselves aware, or rather make the population aware of their existence? Why would they need to? What would be the point behind it? RB, we're controlled by psychopaths. Yes, in a manner of speaking. And actually it alludes to the next next lines or lyrics from the song. No one ever sees them smile, and nothing makes them cry. And so you've got a lot of information that's conveyed in these two lines. Fates in solitude, far from the public eye. No one ever sees them smile, and nothing makes them cry. And so maybe it's alluding to a couple things. One, they don't have emotions. They don't feel emotions. But the other thing is, no one sees them. But maybe some people see them, but they don't really recognize them because perhaps they're not hidden in the places we'd expect them to be, whether they're at all these wondrous economic forums or all these amazing summits, because politicians come and go, but do they really have any power? Oh, maybe they do. I mean, it's up to you to decide, but they come and go. So, whether we have a classic quote-unquote Western democracy or perhaps some sort of dictatorship or even, dare I say, a totalitarian government, it all seems to amount to the same thing in some respects, because could it be possible that there are individuals, or whatever you want to think of them as, that are actually manipulating events without being seen? Welcome to the kingdom, the land of bought and sold, a world of real-life fantasy where truths are seldom told. Try hard to remember all that glitters is not gold. Oh, wonderful line there. You can pay the piper, but you cannot buy his soul. Now, what are your thoughts on those next lyrics right there? What's that really say to you? And what's it really matter? Julia, to promote a sense of powerlessness among the common people. This is very true. Paul, like Vulcans. Well, the funny thing, Paul, about the classic Vulcans is they did feel things. They just didn't express it because of how violent they could be. Of course, are you talking about Vulcans in 1900s, 20th century Star Trek, or 21st century Vulcans? Because you might have noticed from Enterprise onwards, Vulcans seem to be depicted as violent psychopaths themselves. I wonder if there's something with that. So, yes, a good form of theater. And I'm glad you brought that up, Lawrence, and that's a great way to start. Marine, money is not true wealth. Very true. There's actually a Doctor Who episode where Doctor Who himself, after they recovered the Mona Lisa and they had to destroy other original Mona Lisas, said that if art has a monetary value alone, it has no true value as art. Wonderful line, and what a great show. They had some great wisdom. Of course, it was the fourth Doctor who said that, Tom Baker. Who else? Vaughn, management of emotions promotes logic. Yes, it does. And logic is a good thing, but you still need to have emotions. It's a balance. And I know people say I use that as a plug line, but what are you going to do about it? Exactly, Dallas. Your soul is priceless. But there's a lot of people who would gladly sell their soul because they think that they need to achieve certain things because they've been told that certain things are important to them. Democracy is tyranny because the stupid can be easily tricked into voting for the least honest candidates. Yes, that's one way to perceive it. Maybe that's what's going on, or maybe it's something even more insidious than that. We're just looking at the ideas. Sky Sage, compassion is all. And isn't it interesting how everything is supposed to deprive us of our compassion? Sarah with an H, this past week, because of Helene, a lot of people learning money isn't everything. Very true. And oddly enough, the areas where that particular storm struck is quite interesting as well. Gregory, 3-letter or agencies don't come and go. Yes, Gregory, I wonder if someone watched the film that I had recommended a couple weeks ago. That's a good point. Heidi, you cannot buy time. This is very true. I am Kairos. Does AI run this place? That I don't know. I am Kairos. That I really don't know. And Brian, youth is wasted on the young. A lot of songs that allude to that. Anyways, so that's the first series of lines. And, they got away with this in a song. And yes, I'm going to say it this way. They got away with it because they put a lot of interesting, I'm not even going to call them truth drops. They're just saying it exactly as it is. It's not even a truth drop. I mean, just this one group of lyrics, and this isn't even the chorus yet. So, in any event, you get to the second group of lyrics. It's just a game. You're in it all the way. It's just a game. Don't let yourself slip away. It's such a shame, I heard somebody say. It's just a game, and all I can do is play. What do you choose now? What do you believe now? Who are you going to trust? All your dreams and fancy schemes just crumble into dust. Now, what's that really talking about overall? Not sure. Observations. Yes, it is. It is talking about observations to an extent. Add B, they're selling their eternity. Yes, in many respects they are. Hey, Sooner West, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Albert Pike's plan for World War III. Oh, yeah. KC933 there. Quoting the other wondrous song from the Eagles. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. Hotel California. And it alludes to the fact that, yes, we have to play this game. We have to live this life. I mean, there may be some other way out, but are you looking for a way out? A lot of people talk about a simulation ending. Maybe that's it. Or maybe it's just simply a reality that we're stuck in. Michael Walker, I live in my own world. Ah, yes, the true declaration of freedom. And that's what we should all aspire to in a way. Marine, illusion and hopelessness. Yes, in many respects, that is what it is. Jamie, locked into the game. And that's what we don't really want to be, is locked into the game. You want to see it for what it is. Calvin looking for obs. Take it less seriously. There are many things that need to be taken less seriously. I am Kairos. Tears in the Rain. Like Tears in Rain. Tears in the Rain, which was a song by Triumph, and Tears in Rain, which was a great monologue by Rutger Hauer from the original Blade Runner film. I don't really acknowledge a sequel, so... I'm sure you're not surprised. Sounding more like Dust in the Wind now. Potentially. Kansas song there. Yes, I'm a big fan of Kansas as well. Hey, Anne-Marie, thanks for joining us. But it doesn't have to be depressing. It's just simple awareness, because if you listen to other Triumph songs and you listen to some of their lyrics, they actually do tell you there is a way out. And really the way out is in learning and understanding yourself. Because they say it right here. It's just a game. Don't let yourself slip away. You don't ever want to lose yourself, because if you do, that's what you can't get back. No amount of money is ever going to bring yourself back. Now, here's the real interesting lyrics, and the last group of lyrics we'll look at from the song. Calm and cool and computerized to calculate and collect. 1970s, 1980s, and how much does this apply today? Calm and cool and computerized to calculate and collect. We wait and watch and wonder just which puppet they'll select. Oh, you can't make this up. Like the moth too near the flame, who learned this truth too late. We're all too deep into the game. This is the master of our fate. The poets and the pipers have got their motives, and you've got yours, no doubt. And so the game continues. That's what it's all about. All this in one song, and you've just looked at all the lyrics in this song to include the chorus. And what are your thoughts? I mean, how much truth do you think they're really sharing here? Or are they just kind of sharing their perspective and that's all it is? What do you think? Vaughn, undo who you're not instead of trying to be something you're made to be. And that's wonderful, wonderful logic right there. Jamie Griffin, Masters of Reality. RB, some of us came to expose the game. Oh, so true. And yet there are many people, there are many individuals out there that will actively fight to continue the game because they think or believe the game benefits them. Hey, Texas, redneck hippie. King Crimson, how fitting that you bring that example up, because we're going to be getting to that in a second. And then Michael H., yeah, you play the game. Yes, Chaos Icarus reference. So, I mean, it's very intriguing, and, I don't think Triumph is still performing live. Maybe they are. Hollis, nihilism. Yes, one of the themes of the 21st century that certainly comes about. And Cynthia, when does the game end? That I honestly don't know. And I'm certainly not going to say that I do, or proclaim that I do, or that there's some deep hidden meaning out there that we know when the game ends. I mean, for all we know, maybe it's just another hit the reset button and off we go again. Our own little reset button, if you follow. Yeah, we need to be prepared for that in all ways and shapes and forms. But I don't know. I think it's important to remain optimistic, continue to explore, and continue to learn more about ourselves. The notorious Mr. D. Cut the Gordian knot. What a wonderful analogy, too. And isn't it interesting as well that the quote-unquote historical figure that we've looked at, Alexander the Great, was all about cutting the Gordian knot. That's how he untied it. He just whipped out his sword and he cut it. And apparently he was one of the last ones, or at least allusions to the last one, that may have actually been fighting to restore, or if not restore, allow the old world or the old civilization to survive. But who knows? We don't know for sure. Yes, exactly. Sarah with an H, pretty sure the new reset has already started, hence. Well, we don't know. Maybe there's many different layers of it as well. Maybe there's so many of them that we just can't really lock on, and that's kind of the point. Or maybe different events affect different people differently. There's many possibilities. But yeah, that's entirely a possibility. But in any event. And so you look at the great wrestling analogy, all the kayfabe in wrestling. Now, I did a member exploration on the concept of kayfabe. And what's the whole thing about wrestling? Well, to a lot of people, it's a great form of entertainment, and that's all it is. People understand that it's all based on booking. You have these wrestling matches, and really these guys are stunt performers. And gals, there's female wrestlers too, don't want to forget them. But in any event, in the 1980s, you had Hulk Hogan, who's not actually in the center of the image. Oh boy, I bet he'd be mad about that. But who knows what he really feels? Who knows? How do you know it's not just all a character? The reason I highlight wrestling is because there's layers of characters in wrestling as well. So you have the persona that Hulk Hogan or Terry Bollea, or whatever name he's actually going by, is portraying. But then you also have another layer of character. Well, actually, he was an a-hole. He didn't let other wrestlers hold the title. He was a bad dude. But The Undertaker over here, while his character was ruthless and evil, he was a great wrestler because he did what he was told. So you see that you have the layers of kayfabe. And really, we don't need to talk about wrestling any more than that. It's just a wondrous example, because how far does the kayfabe go? How many layers are there? Especially when you have the owner themselves being involved in it, in the booking, and even in matches. Thoughts on that? And I mean, that's where it really gets confusing and crazy. Michael, that was a great mind warping game. Love the WWF 1980s. Yeah, they had to saw off the F. World Wildlife Foundation. Or Feder. Oh, no, it was Foundation, wasn't it? Yeah. Jamie says it. It's like an onion. Oh, this is true. Anyways, go ahead one more here. The whole concept of the game. And we're going to switch gears here to theatricality and deception. But before we do, we're going to take our initial break because I do want to talk about theatricality and deception, give you a chance to switch gears. So we'll go on our 2-minute break a little early, and I'll put on the Monty Python music, and we'll be right back. Just a reminder, please hit that like button and we're going to continue, and thank you for your patience. We're going to move on and talk about something, though, that I've wanted to talk about, and it's one of the themes that I have in the channel, theatricality and deception. How powerful is theatricality and deception? And first and foremost, does anybody know what game is being shown here? Yeah, it's a video game, so. Vaughn, just ignore it, it'll go away. Truest words from my best mate and mother. So true, and many things do go away when we ignore it. Matthew, do you need to play the game? That's a good point. Maybe you don't need to play the game. Perhaps you don't. Sooner West. I had a feeling you'd be the one to get it. Yes, Tron. And what was so unique about the film Tron? And here's another question I have for you. You're not far off. I'm Kairos. This wasn't Discatron. This was the actual Tron game. You're close. You're close. But here's a question for you. What made Tron famous? Was it the original film or was it the actual game? And that's something to consider, especially when you consider the fact that the film was about people in the real world playing a game. So, isn't that interesting? Dallas, I've dreamt of flying and it was such a physical thing that I woke up contemplating its real possibility. And Kathy says it. The game, yes. Marine. I knew sooner or later we were going to get to Tron. Yes, absolutely, because Tron was one of the first films that showed us that we could be playing a game. Although the whole concept of programs and multiple layers of worlds, oh, Sarah with an H says the movie. Well, you could actually make the argument that it was the movie and the game, because without the movie, there would be no game. But the game really gave it a lot of other notoriety. Don't you find it odd that even all these years later, and it should be noted that the original film was not a tremendous financial success. It was very unique, it was creative. They made a sequel to it, Tron Legacy, and now Disney, in their infinite wisdom, is making another sequel with the wondrous Jared Leto. Leto, I already say his name, but anyways. That's the example. And there's other examples of these games that have kind of really gotten very on the nose, such as Sims. I remember that was all the rage in the 2000s. If I had $1 for every student I had who was telling me about Sims and all the things they were achieving. And yes, this is right around the time when you were starting to get cell phones, but this is when people were still going to the computer lab. Give you an idea how long ago this was. And they were talking about playing Sims and all the great things that they were achieving. I mean, why actually live your life when you can play a game about living life and there's no consequences, right? Or are there no consequences? Kathy. Now Tron will die with Disney. And isn't that ironic? Because Tron was born with Disney. Yes. There were some interesting Disney films in the late 70s, early 80s, to include The Black Hole. Yeah, it's definitely not a film Disney would make now, and hopefully they're not going to touch that, so... Rebecca. This reality's a Sims fractal. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I just thought that was a little bit more on the nose for whatever reason. Now, this is actually an older work of art. And I go back to this for a reason because here you have the classic artistic rendering of two individuals playing the game of chess, being watched over by an angel, a divine being, angel or demon, depending how you want to look at it. But then you also look at some of the other disturbing symbolism that's in this image. I mean, look at this. I mean, it's not his hand, but we have the lion, and we have the lion paw over the skull. We seem to have a spider here. There's actually a lot of symbolism in this artwork. And then even with these creatures, these lizard or snake creatures, whatever you want to think of them as, that are crawling down here. A lot of little details. What are your thoughts on this artistic rendering or this painting? And what do you think it's really telling us? What's it showing us? Ah, Kathy, we are all pawns in the game of chess. Yes, in many respects we are, Kathy. I swear Disney made educational films in the 20s. Films from them have an uncanny resemblance to Disney films in the 60s. Oh yeah, well that's a whole exploration in and of itself there, Vaughn, looking at Disney films. Oh, KC933. Why the feathers in the hat? Yes, why the feathers indeed. Well, remember what they tried to tell us a feather represented in the 1990s film Forrest Gump. Yeah, I can't wait to see that sequel where we find out that Forrest Gump was the one who invented the iPhone, right? Sorry, I just had to go there. RB, I wish I knew how to play chess. Oh. Yeah, believe it or not, it was one thing that I could do a little bit better than my department chair, and he really hated my guts for it. But in any event, do I play anymore? No. And again, it's just a game. You know the rules and you know how to manipulate the rules. Is there anything that makes you special about it? I enjoyed it, but that's all there is to it. Dwayne, the players are good versus evil per the chess pieces. Very interesting. Noah, feathers tickle, you lose, you get punished. Yes, this is true. Oh, Pineapple Man. Chess is a 5-minute game. Yeah, it can be. And I can remember times when it was a 30-second game, but we don't need to talk about that, so. Hey, Queen Peachy Queen, thanks for joining us. One of these days I'll be able to say your name really quickly. I need more practice. Queen Peachy Keen. There we go. Well, you know, I wouldn't say I was good at it, RB. I was acceptable. Let's just put it that way. You know, I was acceptable competition. But there were other chess games that were going on while we were playing our chess game. So, kind of like three-dimensional chess if you ever watched Star Trek. So... Sarah with an H, I'm curious why Star Wars never became a popular game. Very interesting consideration there. I mean, it's just because they couldn't really make a good game with it. So, oh, Coherence, 888 Victoria Assault. My dad played chess by snail mail per move in the 1970s. I remember that. And it's funny because in the original Blade Runner film, they alluded to that where I think it was J.R. Sebastian is trying to get in to see Tyrell, and he's got Roy Batty with him. And he actually figures out that there's a replicant in the elevator because he gives Sebastian the moves to defeat him. So, Sooner West, if you look at the pieces, it's good versus evil. Angel watching over the good. Oh, look at that. Someone is very keen on the detail, aren't they? And isn't it interesting that, yes, that's what the angel's actually looking at? Although when you look at the board, who seems to be winning here? Although, is that really important, or is it really just a game? Is it to give you the impression that evil will defeat good? Or does it really matter when the game's over because the pieces will be reset? Get it? Yeah, chess is very literal, a little too literal for my liking, so. Yeah, Savas, it does look like good is losing. And they're always putting it out there. Coherence, I don't think it's good versus evil. It's like blue versus red. We don't need to play. Oh, blue versus red? You mean like NATO forces use and every other military in the world? Yes. And don't get me started on green on blue. That's still a sore point with me. But the less we say about that, the better. Yeah, very good point. And they're all good ways to see it. And yes, I mean, it could just be that simple. It's a game that you're to think that there's a good side and a bad side, but maybe it's just blue and red. And isn't it funny how everything is blue and red? Where's my Pepsi and where's my Coke? And never mind. I'm not going to go any further than that. Just watch the movie The Stuff and you'll figure out what I'm alluding to. So, Jamie, evil always has to think it's winning. That's kind of a true comment as well, in a lot of respects. So, coherence, sovereignty movement is standing outside that. And it's actually one of the hardest things to achieve because it relies on objectivity. And believe me, everyone's going to be out there pulling at your eyes and your ears, and they're going to come at you with tweezers. They're going to try to annoy you. They're going to flick you in the eye. They're going to do anything and everything they can to keep you from choosing the middle way or be objective. You have righteous vengeance. You have the infuriating nature of righteousness on your side. And then the next thing you know, you will decide whether you're going to be red or blue. And does it really matter? Nah, not so much. But yes. Kathy Childers, no Coke, Pepsi. Yeah, do you really have a choice? No, not at all. But that's many different ways of looking at it. And it's important to realize that every one of those ways is valid. Now, going on with the concept of theatricality and deception, this is a picture of the beacon of progress. We've done an exploration on it. What particular event that many alternative researchers like to talk about, if not virtually all of them, that this was supposed to be featured at? Does anybody know? And what city this was supposed to be at? Julia has it's all toxic cola. Yeah, probably. I mean, it's got caffeine and processed sugar. It's not the best for you, but it does taste good, right? The notorious Mr. D, I'll have the water. Yes. Jamie Griffin, The Spire. Philip I, 1893 Chicago. You are correct. It was to be featured at the Chicago World's Fair. Vatican. Yeah, that's a good supposition there. Nope, Chicago World's Fair. Now the question, did they actually bring this to fruition, this incredible obelisk made of something? Did they complete this incredible obelisk? Yes or no? What do you think? Emerald City. Michael Walker, Shilaga. Yes, it was to be there. Enignomo, look like obelisks you get from Renaissance. Yeah, this is true. No, they did not finish it. You're absolutely right. Or Vaughn. It was already there. Oh, Vaughn, are you cheating again? Are you looking in my mind and you're seeing the answers to the test? Not sure. Possibly constructed in 1 week, or probably constructed in 1 week. Yeah, if they really said they had it. Okay, so let's look into this. Let's tear this apart real quick, because I know a lot of people didn't see the exploration for some unknown reason. But in any event, officially, I am Kairos. Founded and destroyed, history controlled. Yes, probably the best way to summarize it. In any event, officially, they did not complete this. This was merely a concept. But we have other clues. For example, this comparison of the Beacon of Progress to the Eiffel Tower, St. Peter's, and Cologne Cathedral, and then, of course, the Great Pyramid. And you can see how it towers over them. Well, if they didn't complete this, why exactly would they be doing a comparison sketch then? Because once again, it was the 1890s and they didn't have enough to do at their time, so we need to do comparison sketches of hypothetical building designs, because that's just what architects do all the time, I guess. Now, if this was complete, if this did exist, and if this was to scale, what are your thoughts on this? And why is the concept of theatricality and deception important? Because could this have existed and we just don't know? Heidi, don't know, wasn't there. Exactly, Heidi. That's the problem all of us have. And it's also the issue nobody wants to admit to. Somebody else wrote down that it was there. Others say that it wasn't. Oh, Philippi would be taller than Sears Tower. Yes, not exactly a subtle structure from the 1890s, especially one that's made out of what they'll tell us is masonry or stone. Oh, yes, I love that one. F in the chat. Shilaga was an amazing city. Still some amazing structures there, although we could debate back and forth if it's still an amazing city. Anyways. Vaughn, very detailed sketch when we mostly get one-dimensional plans for most buildings. So very true. Jamie Griffin, built using airships and destroyed by them, possibly. Definitely. Anyway, we do have some more renderings of this. Here's another drawing. You know, and why can't we just say that this is a photo? That gives you an idea of the scale and the detail that was supposed to go into this beacon of progress. Very interesting, isn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 lions. And of course, it's the lions. And then, of course, we have our very American Roman Greco figures of divinity up here, like we always show on these wondrous obelisks that we just built all over the United States, apparently. And so when you just look at these three sketches or renderings, they're a lot more detailed. You could very easily say that they're trying to almost blur the line between photo and sketch, especially with this one. Now, yeah, we can definitely declare they're sketches. But that's a lot of perspectives. That's a lot of imagination that went into a building that didn't exist, wouldn't you say? And there it all comes down to theatricality and deception. RB, didn't we all speak the same language when this was built? Very likely, RB. Or maybe we had something even better than speaking a language, huh? Anne Marie Miller, Anne Roman. So true. Once again. Yep, screams Egyptian and Roman. I agree. Or at least what we're told. Anyways. We even have a layout for where it was supposed to be in Jackson Park as part of the revised general plan. Isn't that odd? Yes, Jackson Park, where they quickly drained it because it was a swamp for the World's Fair. And then they were going to put this very subtle obelisk that would be taller than the Sears Tower if it was still there. And if you want to go back and watch that exploration, I did actually superimpose the Sears Tower to give you an idea of how it would compare to it. Quite intriguing. Excuse me. Willis Tower. I'm jumping timelines here. Willis Tower. Or is it not the Willis Tower? Is it the Sears Tower again? Oh, well. Watch the explorations this week. You'll enjoy that. But yeah, there's a plan that shows where it's supposed to be in Jackson Park. So again, multiple sketches, a plan. And as if that's not enough, we actually have multi-perspective plans for this thing. This thing that was not built. This thing that was never built. So we're told officially. Although we don't have anything like this for many of the other structures that we have. Look at this. A main auditorium for 20,000 people. Another auditorium for 5,000 people. Total number of rooms, 1,500. Can you imagine the material in this? 66 stories of small offices, or 33 stories of large offices. Yes, because there's such a difference. Oh, and then the Weather Bureau at the top. The very top of the obelisk and the quote-unquote capstone. So really, what do you think of this? I mean, an actual perspective of plans with detailings like this. Was this something? Yeah, very frickin' odd. Great way to say it, Jamie. And I agree completely. That's what they said they were planning there, Rob. 4X built on swampland. RB. I prefer a small log cabin. Yeah, I think a lot of people do. PJCC West. 3 years. Heck, we could have done it in 36 hours. This was the 1800s, right? Logistics No problem. Everybody was master artisans and craftsmen, and they could easily do it. KC933, can you imagine the resonance frequency from that? Yes, it is quite a thought. I think a scuba dive should be planned. Who knows, Barbara? That's probably the best way to really see what's down there or out there. Now, a lot of people try saying, well, if there was any remnants of this building, shouldn't the foundation still be out there? What kind of foundation did it have? Although the funny thing is then they just completely hand wave away foundations when we talk about things like state capitals. I don't know. Could still be out there in the ground somewhere for all we know. Or maybe in the past they had a method to completely demolish it that we're not aware of. Or there was something about this that they had to demolish it. They thought they could potentially unveil it and then plans changed. Who knows for sure? Or go with theory B, it's an example of overlapping timeline. Theatricality and deception, though. I was always tickled at how much it reminded me of The Dark Tower. So yeah, we're getting to a little Stephen King here. And I'm talking about the entire Dark Tower novel series. I'm not talking about the films or any of the other ephemeral material, just the original novels written by Stephen King. I did appreciate Stephen King as an author. I don't really care about his personal opinions. They don't matter to me. But he did have some very interesting creative ideas, especially with this concept of the Dark Tower. And if you're familiar with the novels and the Dark Tower story, it represented a nexus point for multiple realities. Now, I know I'm summarizing here, and yeah, spoilers, but I'm not going to say anything more than that. But if you think about such a large obelisk potentially having the same kind of nexus point, you can see that sort of connection. Again, it's just an idea. And what are your thoughts on that? Oh, the trilogy. KC933, it's a mound now. Yeah, very good way to put it. And there's mounds out there all over the place. Vaughn, can you imagine the sound of bells and cymbals around the realm? I miss it. I can still remember when I was young, and no, we don't need to know how old I am, when you still heard bells quite frequently. And yes, it was a very different time, especially on Sunday when it was really a day of rest and recharge. So, RB reminds me of Sauron. Sauron. Yes, it did have a bit of a difficult vibe to it. So, who's to know? Who's to say? Oh, yeah, the Richard Bachman novels. Good call out there, Michael. PJCC West, soon to be a new golf course. You got it. You've got it all right there. And so there's many different examples of it, and it represents this nexus point, this meeting point of realities. And the whole series involves the gunslinger, as he's called, although really he's more of a knight. That's a better way to think of him. And the classic terminology of knight, not what was lost, although it's funny how they walk back what a knight is. And his quest is to reach the Dark Tower. Although why is he really trying to reach the Dark Tower? And there's an interesting way the series of novels ends, but I'm not going to spoil it for you. And yes, it has a coda. And yes, it has a choose your own adventure ending, if you will, in a manner of speaking. Wondrous work there, Stephen King. Wondrous work. But anyways, we also see theatricality and deception with all these old world buildings, because how many photos have we seen, doing this for, we're coming up on 2 years here pretty quick. We're just 4 months shy. So yeah, we've been doing this for 20 months together. Wow. Where's the time go? But we've seen numerous photos like this. We have the scaffolding, and this proves something. What's this prove? It proves that they threw up scaffolding around a building. That's all this photo proves, if it is indeed a legitimate photo. Of course, I also see the detail down here in the road with all the brick. And it doesn't matter which building this is, because we've seen these photos ad nauseum, haven't we? I don't remember the moon landing. I think that's what you're referring to there, Michael. Cough. Well, you had to be there to really appreciate it, right? Nana Deborah, now we're singing from the moss twice a day, but the bells were too annoying. It's interesting that you highlight that, because yes, I'm amazed at how we seem to have gotten away from bells all across the land with all the cultures and all the major religions. So not really sure about that. Jamie, preparing it for fire. Yeah, that's one way to look at it. Sarah, scaffolding isn't proof of building, it's proof of renovation. Oh yes, wonderful words there. RB, took longer to build the scaffolding. Most indubitably. And, if I had $1 for every year the Iowa State Capitol was under scaffolding, yeah, it's about 5 times the amount in terms of what it cost to originally build it just to put up the scaffolding. So, what are you going to do? I am Kairos. I am skeptical of all these old photos. I always find anomalies. As well we should be. Especially since we're having admitted it to our faces quite frequently every single day, that photos can be manipulated. Videos can be manipulated. The only question is how long did they have the capability? They being anybody. I'm not even referring to any sort of group or anything like this. Anybody having the capability to alter photos. And then, of course, you can go to many of these structures and you can see these very elaborate interiors. Now, I've got to admit that with my explorations, one of the things that reaches me the most as an alternative explorer is some of these interiors. And whether it's Lincoln Cathedral or anywhere really, and you just see the amount of geometric precision. Now, I had somebody in the comments just tell me, geometry's been with us for a long time. Basic tools can do this. Okay, well, when you're just speaking to me in generalities, how did we do it? Can you really think about how we did it? Can you really think about how everybody across the land, all the continents, different nations, with different skill levels, different logistical capacities, were able to do things like this? And believe me, they did this all over. This was not just in the United Kingdom. This was not just the United States. They could do things like this. They had the ability to build a column like this that had this kind of geometric precision. And it's not just in the column, it's everywhere. And every time I see it, it impresses me. And I think it does speak to something that came before. Ah, yes. And every time I see it, KC933, it takes my breath away. And it doesn't matter how many times I see it. And again, that's just how it affects me. But it might affect you differently. Omnigma, when the world was free. Yes, in many ways, in more ways than one. Very good way to look at it, too. But there's many others, whether you're in Paris or France or whatever, and you can see it in the very intricate artwork. Now, you try to step back and you ask yourself the question, why would anybody bother with this? Because people were just into art back then and they wanted to showcase their opulence and their financial well-being. Well, aren't people into art now and don't they want to showcase their financial opulence and well-being? Or is there another explanation? And someone's always telling me, well, you could show better examples with what we can or can't do looking at hotels. Hey, look at that. There's that little cartouche. Excuse me, I got a little distracted there. Every time I see the cartouche, although it looks like we have a little bit of the head up here. And yes, you'll see this symbol all over the place, whether you're in Europe in the finest palaces, or whether you're in a very small town in Iowa that it has no business being in, because why would anybody build a little cartouche like that in not to be, disrespectful to Iowa, but it's a small town. It's only been there since 1887. Who was doing this? How? Well, they had all those Germans. They could figure everything out. And, and we're all about Germans until we're not. At least that's what people will say. But, yeah, it's kind of comical to me. Who knows? I mean, some progenitor people that we're all descended from, don't suggest that. It can't be that possibility. But you see the different elements of the cultures, how they come together, but then you also see other little nuances. So it's hard to say. We're trying to put the pieces together. Sorry about that. Jedi Red Eye X, portal representation. No doubt about it. I think that's what we see a lot of, and that's why it's important. And we see a lot of portal representation. And here's Lincoln Cathedral. Now, at one point in time, this was the tallest structure in the land, at least when it had the spires. Now it doesn't have the spires anymore. Isn't this an ominous structure back here? Oh, less said about that, the better. But anyway, beautiful cathedral. Not that I'm suggesting anything, just kind of looks ominous back there and the way it blends into the sky. Really odd, huh? But then, of course, you see the door. Now, for those of you who are longtime watchers of the channel, you know that one of my favorite buildings is, or at least one of my favorite Art Deco buildings, is the wonderful Plummer Building in Rochester, Minnesota. And oddly enough, this is a very similar door. Now, of course, we have the many doors within the door. And remember that they did call these doors portals. Gee, why? I don't know. But then you have all these interesting figures up here. Well, these figures were all the kings. And of course, we showed the kings. And naturally, we had to put very wondrous adornments above them because they're kings. And there's always that concept of divinity and the whole concept of the crown. But then we also see this symbolism here. All this on a cathedral. A lot of work, wouldn't you say? Hey, Brother Adam. Angels competing against one another. Yeah, that's another way to look at it. Paul, Keepers of the Flame. That's a good example too, Paul. Zora. Well, look at that. Zora just randomly happened upon one of my very favorite songs, Fight the Good Fight. Yes, that's always been one of my favorite songs. Now you know my favorite song. Didn't even have to ask the question. Someone just posed it out there. Old World Delaware. I really like considering these buildings as portals or a nexus. RB, too much work. Anne Marie, 7 arches. Well, you could see it as 7 arches. You can actually count even more arches there. Something else quite interesting. So, Gene, probably wellness centers for society. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And that seemed to be the purpose. And remember, older concepts, at least in the Western world, things that we associated on Sunday, a day of rest, a day of recovery, play the bells, Didn't have to be Sunday. That's just the day I remember. But this gives you an idea, another sketch, and here's when it actually had the spires that made it the tallest structure. Good old Lincoln. And there it is again. Very ominous. Yes, this is tabbed for an on-site exploration when I get back to the United Kingdom, and I plan to do it. And then, of course, looking up, again, seeing all these arches and all this precision, all these columns. Does anybody want to venture a guess when we're told this was built? And no, I'll be honest with you. Sarah with an H, that's the 4th video. Add in this live. Sky Sage, many overlapping timelines. Yes. And I wonder if that's part of the game. Maybe the game's getting overlapping too, or whatever you want to think of it as. RB, so much easier to imagine this than to bring it into physical reality, at least nowadays. I would love to see what someone would try to say. Any contractor anywhere, or even a government, if you said, yes, let's build a structure like this. I would just like to hear what they say. Yeah, well, since you're asking me, what is the current official date of Lincoln Cathedral? In Lincolnshire, England. Yes, you might recall that from Robin of Sherwood. That's where the new sheriff was from. That was a great episode. The Sheriff of Nottingham. 1185 to 1311 in Gothic style. 1185 to 1311. See, they could just do anything that they wanted to. So, then they even say that it was rebuilt. So it's another one of those stories. It was something that was rebuilt over hundreds of years. So who really knows? KC933, dimensions converged. Yeah, great way. Jamie, we can, but we'll go bankrupt. Yeah. Hey, Julia, good to see you. It feels to me like our timelines are overlapping. And I have that same perception, Julia, and the longer I go on, the more it feels that way. Now, granted, that's just me. That's not to say everybody feels that way, so. Yes, indeed. And then when you see things like this, look at all these colored windows, and again, the geometric precision. Now, when you see something like this, this really just, it blows up in your face that this just really feels like it's something from a completely different world. And these were the kind of images that I used to appreciate hanging up on the other platform the channel used to operate on until, for whatever reason, the channel just wasn't allowed to operate on that platform. There was no notification given for it. So, again, I'm not going to say anything bad about the current platform we're on because, at least I can still stand on it. But in any event, when you see an image like this, you get an idea for how precise this geometry was. And you want to tell me this was done with simple tools? You want to tell me this was done by craftsmen and laborers and people during the so-called Middle Ages? Of course, now they walk it back. Well, the Middle Ages was actually a lot more advanced. It was a lot nicer. Right. What material do you even think this is made out of? No, not the window, but this. What do you think? Always something fun to think about. Vaughn, radiolarians. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Magic, kind of over the top. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. And Marine. Yeah, touch of heaven to it. Very easy to see why that can be seen and why that's a very reasonable supposition, like everything else with the theories. Not sure. They had some high-tech protractors. Yeah, clearly. They had something. Hollis, sidereal astrology makes me wonder if the precession is a psyop for our world has maybe gone out of phase. No, I don't think it's gone out of phase, but there could be something else going on that's beyond anybody's control or even awareness. We'll get to that. Ooh, Sooner West. Yeah, it does look like Rivendell, doesn't it? It does. It really does. And it's not just in that particular location. You can even find many of these locations that people walk through every day where you have a mix of both the artwork on the ceiling and then the fine geometric precision. And I always strongly advise you to walk through any of these structures wherever they may be. Hey, look at this pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9 if you count the one in the middle. What's that representing? I'm not sure. Of course, I'm just saying that, but, I have my theories. But you see structures like this, and then you see other prominent symbols, even within the architecture itself. Is it stone? Is it advanced polymer? Is it something even beyond that? Well, it's still standing and it's in total precision and perfection. So I don't know. I'm under the impression this is something much more advanced than any kind of limestone, marble, or any of the other great stones that we say that we quarry out of certain locations. Although there's a curious lack of quarrying going on right now in many of these locations. Yeah, it still happens. But it's very haphazard, or haphazard as I like to say, compared to what we used to see. Oh, Paul, 3D printing. Maybe a manner of it that goes beyond what we can really say or think. Yeah, so true. The entire thing looks like it was made of one rock, says Omnigma. Sorry, twisting myself there. But yeah, it does, doesn't it? It really very much does. And really something beyond our ability to comprehend. But when you throw in this theatricality and deception, then what do you have? You have people that just walk through it every day. Hey, I'm going about my business and whatever I'm doing. And, there's nothing extraordinary about walking through a place like this. Well, yeah. And I'm not judging or castigating any of these people because all of us were conditioned at one point in time where we could walk through a structure like this and not pay attention. And who knows? Maybe one of these people in this image is the actual Lucius Aurelian walking through here and appreciating it. Can't say for sure. That's why it's a bad image. All right. So, transitioning out of that, before we go to question and answer, I wanted to share some content creator adventures with you. I've gotten a couple questions about some of the things I've experienced since being a content creator, and I thought we'd switch gears here a little bit, and I would just share a couple stories of my adventures that I've had with you. And they're very interesting because, the real reason I'm sharing is it always makes me wonder if there's more going on than meets the eye. And again, it plugs back into this whole theme of life being a game. So this is Lucius Aurelian's perspective, first-person perspective. When I had just started the channel, and this was early March 2023, or at least the time that we think of as 2023. Who knows what the real date is? You know how I feel about that. I had just done an exploration on something that I saw on 4K called the Chronicle of Georgia. This is in Tbilisi in the nation of Georgia, not to be confused with the state of Georgia. And yes, you can see that this wonderful Chronicle of Georgia is up on this hill in Tbilisi, and it overlooks the beautiful lake. And in the exploration, it was one of my very early explorations. I think it was the third one I did overall. About an 8-minute long video. My, how things have changed, right? Anyways, about an 8-minute long video where I just questioned it. Was it really built in the 1980s by the sculptor that we're told, although we have no construction photos? And you can look at some of the detail and get an idea. Now, some people actually call this the Stonehenge of Georgia, although, in my humble estimation, this makes Stonehenge look like some Tonka toys. This thing is humongous, to say it in non-proverbial stances. Now, what we're informed of is that this is the Chronicle of Georgia. This shows the history of the nation of Georgia, and it also shows the history of its very illustrious Christian tradition, as it's considered one of the oldest Christian nations. That's the official story. But there's many anomalies with it, constructed during the Soviet period in the Soviet Union, and also, again, no construction photos. But anyways, to get right to the point on what I'm talking about here with what transpired, whether this is ancient or new, I just ask questions on it. And at the time, I was active on another platform. It was a platform where alternative researchers I thought could share information. And I had this individual who took a bit of an interest in my videos and had contacted me via email, because I was relatively new to the game and, the game that we're playing here, this current game, the other layer of games, if you will. And believe me, this individual showed me how much of a game this really was. Because what they said was, well, I don't know if I think that this could have been done by any previous civilization. You should just accept the fact that human beings could do this and don't question human beings. Okay, that was fine. They were entitled to their opinion. And you can go look on any video to this day and you'll see people have divergent opinions. And I'm completely fine with that. In fact, I appreciate them. Well, then about 7 days after I released the exploration, a little 8-minute video on my channel that is virtually non-existent at the time, comparatively speaking, nobody's really watching it. About 10 days after I release it, John Levi does an exploration where he looks at the Chronicle of Georgia. Okay, no big deal. Chronicle of Georgia, that's what it's officially called. You can go see it in Tbilisi to this day. Anyway, John Levi did his own exploration on it. Okay, that's completely fine. Well, then I get an email from this individual telling me, did you know that John Levi stole your content? And I was thinking, how exactly did John Levi steal the content? He didn't steal the content. He did his own exploration on it. I sure as heck didn't build this thing. I didn't architect it. But I realized that's what was going on here. There are people like that out there, now whether they're people or whether they're programs or whatever, who will say anything, who will do anything to get you to question yourself, to get you to not continue the exploration. And really what this person wanted me to do was to have some sort of weird feelings or to have antipathy towards John Levi. It didn't work. In fact, I was actually flattered. Now, I doubt he watched the video. Why would he? It was really just a coincidence. And his exploration on it was completely different than mine. It just happened to cover the same area. And that happens with this alternative research. I don't care if other alternative explorers look at this stuff. I'm actually delighted that they do. That's the whole point. And give their own perception on it. But yeah, Old World Delaware says it. And I was inclined to think that this individual was a human being because, then they told me, well, I guess I'm just going to be a liar and a deceiver because that's what people want me to be. Well, you don't have to be that way. But when someone tells you they're a liar, well, then they're a liar because they're either being truthful about being a liar or they're lying about being a liar, which still makes them a liar. So anyway, that's story number 1. Little content creator adventure right there. And it all happened around this. And yeah, I've done a couple explorations on the Chronicle of Georgia. And I certainly invite you to do your own exploration on it. Now, somebody asked me about the height. Well, here's the image that gives you an idea of how tall it is. Very impressive structure. Now, I haven't visited this in person. I don't know if this is a bona fide old world structure. I'm under the impression it is, but I could be wrong. Somebody could have done it. Somebody could have put it together, but it's very curious and very mysterious, and it is to this day. And if memory serves, I think John Levi came to the same conclusion. Research incomplete. We just don't know. You know what? It's okay not to know. We're not going to know. Oh, here's an even better one. Got a lady with her dog here taking some pictures, but it's hard to say. Using our current available construction materials, could we do something like this? Yes, potentially. But how effective is it and how genuine is it and how does it stand up to an old world structure? Who knows? That's why I need to be on the ground. But that's just me. That's how I explore things. Yeah, and I'm with you, Sky Sage. There's a lot about it that's very stunning. But in any event, yeah, and I like the way Adam says it. All I know is that I don't know. And that's exactly how I am. Vaughn, we could simulate it. Yeah, maybe. I really wonder if we could. So, in any event, that's content creator adventure number 1. So, and keep in mind, that was when my channel was very, very small, and I don't know why anybody would care about it. So, very, very strange. Now, quick story number 2. You might recall that initially I did have a sponsor, and this was a partner actually that I worked with, and we went our separate ways last summer, and I shared that story on the community chat way back in the day. Not important, we just didn't see things eye to eye, and that person withdrew, and I had full creative control of the channel. But during that partnership, he was actually looking to get us another sponsor. And, I just show generic company because I'm not going to talk about who this company actually is because I don't know if I'm convinced that we really talked to this company. We got an email from this company that he had arranged, my sponsor at the time. And the company basically passed us around like a cigarette saying, hey, I'm going to pass you to partner A, partner B. You're going to talk to Jack, Jill, Bob, Mohammed, Eric, Darren, all these different people. Nobody can make a decision though on if we're going to give you the sponsorship. So it's past the cigarette with the email for a week, so you're constantly getting past another person. Then by the end of the week, well, here's Vice President so-and-so. And Vice President so-and-so says, yeah, we're all set. We got you set up for a contract and everything. Weekend goes by, and then Monday, an email. Cancel the meeting. We don't have any funding for it. Sorry. Very hilarious because I was trying to figure out, well, was this even real or was someone just actually wasting our time? Because why would any company operate that way? They know how much funding they have and how much financing they have. So it was really odd. Now, I'm not going to mention the name of the company because, like I said, I don't know if it really was that company. But, so 2 odd experiences just to share with you about being a content creator. Jamie Griffin. Yeah, thanks, but no thanks, mate. I'll be right. Kathy, you mean pass the joint? Well, it just depends on your perspective, Kathy. So, yeah, you know what my bad habit was. So, there you go. One less question you have to ask, right? Vaughn, you'd been infiltrated. Yeah, that's really what it felt like. So, in any event, less said about that, the better. Oh, yeah, it was probably a scam of some sort. That's what I would think, But we're just seeing where it would go and what it was all about. Anyways, after that happened, he and I went our separate ways, and I haven't concerned myself with that since. And I got to say, I've been much happier for it. So, yeah, exactly, local Chippy. And you know what? That's how you really know a person is by their actions. And one of the reasons I'll admit that, RB Matrix agents, yeah, probably a good way of looking at it. And maybe people that think that they're serving their own interest, but actually are serving the interest of others, and they don't really care how they do it. So, but anyway, Gene edited. How can I get Lucius on my podcast? Shoot an email to the channel email that you can look up, and I will be delighted to appear. Anyways, that's how you can do it. So, in any event, we'll just leave off here with the Iowa State Capitol. And one final story that I'll share with you about being a content creator. What's our real story? Your channel is amazing on your own. Thank you very much. And what I appreciate the most about it is interacting with all of you. I mean, the research is fun. The explorations are fun. But I really, really appreciate all the things that we share and all the ideas that we have on these live streams. That's why I do the live streams. Yeah, Jamie, the golden portals. And you know what structure this is? You should know it by now. Because it's not painted gold now, is it? Because remember, it's cheaper to build with real gold. Windhammer, it'd be great if we could find some true Tartarian history books. They have to exist somewhere. I am of the mindset that they've either all been completely destroyed, they've all been transposed, or that they really weren't what we'd think of as books. Only one person has access. Oh, okay. Okay, Norge. Well, yeah, you should definitely know where that is then. Yeah, I agree. Live streams are the best. And believe me, they've been targeted too. So, anyways. Okay. So we'll go on one final quick break and then we'll get to the question and answer session. And we'll see how long I last. So with that, intermission back in 2 minutes. And let me put on the wonderful, not Robin of Sherwood music for you, but Monty Python music. And we'll be back in 2 minutes. Oh, before we go, please give the channel a like, support. I really appreciate it. And keep sharing the wonderful information that you do. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. All right, and we are back, and it's the moment you've all been waiting for, question and answer. Now, before we start the question and answer, a couple prefaces. One, I reserve the right not to answer anything, but I'll try to answer everything. I know, now I'm starting to sound like a politician, aren't I? Number two, you are free to ask me anything, but like I say, I reserve that right. And last but not least, I'll try to take the questions as they come. And if you want to get my attention, you are more than welcome to. But I'm not pushing anything here. So I just wanted to give you the time and the opportunity because I think I've gotten about 14 requests for question and answer. Oh, thanks, RB. I appreciate that. You just all hit that like button. That's how you vote for me. I appreciate that. So. I know. I'm being very cliche, but sometimes you have to be. So, with that, with the lovely Iowa State Capitol in the background with its actual gold covered dome, we will begin. Kathy Childers, will we ever get to see what you look like? You might have already seen what I look like many times. I know that's a very enigmatic answer, but maybe one of the reasons I don't show my face is because many people have already seen my face. And boy, have they ever. So maybe one day you will. Maybe one day I'll just pop it up on the live stream. I haven't decided yet. So, are you married? Just to my research. LA, where do you think you're from? I used to say I was from the United States in the Midwest, but now I kind of think of myself as being from everywhere. Dallas, what caused you to exit academia? Namely, the system, the bureaucracy, the hypocrisy. Those are the big things. Oh, wow, goodness. Thank you so much, Barbara. I really appreciate that. I really, really appreciate that. And thank you for being here for all this time. And by all means, if you have a question, feel free to ask it. Dwayne, did you grow up in a middle class family? People really liked lawn care where you lived. I don't know. I mean, you could say it's lower middle class. You could even say it's high lower class, actually. So I'm certainly not of the upper middle class or anything like that, if it matters so much. So, well, thank you, Barbara. I appreciate you, and I really, really appreciate that. What planet, LA? I don't know. The one they call Earth. Vaughn, where do you see the channel going in the future? Continuing explorations. I mean, I innovate as I go, and it really depends on what my interest area is, and I'll follow where my interest area is going to be. Is it going to be more buildings? Is it going to be more history? Is it going to be more theory? It's always a bit of a mix. So expect the unexpected. How about that? I am Kairos. Does the lack of convincing logistics photos construction support a construct sim game? I would say it does. It definitely does at times. So, Sky Sage. I got you, Sky Sage. Go ahead and ask your question now. So, Kathy, did you enjoy living in Louisville? Yes, at the time I did, but it was a very different land. It was early 2000s. I get the feeling it might be a different experience now. So, anyway. Ronnie, how much evidence and research is necessary for you to post about something? It depends. I'll post pretty much about anything if I feel it has a bit of an impact, but I'll try to be clear in terms of lacking evidence. So, my ankle is perfectly fine, RB. It can hold 6 miles at a 6:30 mile now like it always could. Thank goodness. So I'd say it's fully healed, but I appreciate you asking. So. Barbara, were you raised with a religion? Yes, I was. But that's not to say I still practice that religion. But I still respect religion, if that makes sense. Hollis, do you work with an editor? Yes, me, myself, and I. Sarah with an H, when is your birthday? It's actually on the channel name, Restitutor Orbis. The number that follows that is actually my birthday. Not going to tell you what year, obviously, but, month and date, it's right there. Queen Peachy Keen, do you have kids, grandkids? Nope, just my pets. Just my pets. Ooh, Diomede Islands. Yeah, I would like to touch that one. I think that's a good live stream one there. What is your dog's name? Well, it depends. Which dog are you talking about here? Had many dogs. Frosty. That's probably the fondest dog I had when I was little. White dog. Favorite food? Depends. Either classic Americana, I like Thai. I used to like Buffalo Wild Wings, but no, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot long pole. Sad, sad, sad. And yes, I know Buffalo Wild Wings is not quality dining. So, mm. What questions are those that cross the line? Special thanks for sharing. I don't know if any have, but I'm not catching every single one. I'm doing the best I can. Remember, like I said, it's just me, myself, and I here. No staff, no personal assistant. Robert, what do you think of Genesis 6 in the book of Enoch? I think that there are a lot of connections that are very intriguing, Robert, and it's one of the reasons why I spend a lot of time actually reading and studying it. Believe it or not, I did a full thesis on the book of Enoch back in my university days. So, Chemical General 12. If you had to pick one movie that has the most hints to the true history, what would it be? Ooh, oh gosh, that's a tough one. There are so many that do a wonderful job. But if I had to pick one, boy, the true history. I might have to say The Dark Crystal. And that's actually based on all the input that I got during that exploration. The Dark Crystal probably has a lot of true history hints in it. Okay, hold on. Let me get caught up here. I am Kairos. Will you do some boots on the ground explorations? Yes, I will be doing some this next week, in fact. So, Queen Peachy Queen. Well, I try to be straight up. You can only be honest with people. But, Paul, was Tartaria a benevolent, enlightened society? I believe that it existed from its incipience, or at least its start, until about midway through that it was. But then I'm under the impression now, again, theory, that it quickly was corrupted. And it got very badly corrupted. So, anyways. Let's see. What else have we got here? Let me get caught up. Do you drink hard liquor, beer, both, neither? Well, I guess if I say that at one point I did, yes. Do I now? No, but, that's just my personal decision. So, let's see. What else do we have here? Coherence. When we'll do an episode on Colombia and South America. It is coming soon. One of my challenges there, Victoria, is I get inevitably delayed with all the other explorations I do. And then here's the other issue that I have. I tend to follow tangents a little bit. I still have both South America and Africa with probably about, I would say, 92 explorations together for both of them. So it's all on the list and it's coming. I hate to say that. I know it's a bit of a cliche answer. So anyways, hey, Charlie, thank you. I really appreciate that. So, well, you know what, Sky Sage, you are welcome to ask me questions at any point in any time. So anyways. Let's see. What else did I miss? Do you like GTA 5? Never played it. Loved Vice City, though, since you're asking. Venice. It's a beautiful city, Philip. I assume that's what you're asking about. And it's got lovely canals. And I'm not giving up on it. So, if you follow me. Sooner West. Are you building an airship yet? Well, I might be trying to put one together, yes. And that is actually something I'm looking for help on. Because no, aerospace engineering was not my background. I can admit my limitations. Not just going to go cruise off on an airship that I threw together in my backyard. Yeah, you never know. So, Legendary. If money or access is no factor, where would you go to do an on-ground site exploration? You know what? I think tomorrow I would pop over to Florence Cathedral. And I think I said in one of the videos, Florence Cathedral is very close to being building number 1 for our explorations. So, Oh, Philip, you're talking about that. Yes, there were some technical issues with that. I'm working on it right now. Not the first time that happened, and it won't be the last time. KC933, what's your favorite place you've traveled to? I would say Ireland. But that's just me. There's lots of beautiful places all over. I mean, For crying out loud, I enjoy going to Des Moines, Iowa. Now, Des Moines is a very beautiful city. I'm not saying that in a bad way, but, what are you going to do? What are you going to say? Oh, look at that, Vaughn. Well, thank you very much, sir. For the albatross, too. It's a good one. All right. Well, now I really have pressure to get it done, don't I? And everyone would be invited, although I'd have to build a really big one. Hey, Robert, I appreciate that. And thank you for all the things that you've shared and all the direct correspondence you've had with me. I've appreciated that. So it's okay, Mark. I'll be back. I'm always back. I don't ever go away. On a live stream, your comments were deleted. Huh. I'm not deleting anybody's comments on live stream. That's odd. Parish Victoria, what's your favorite YouTube channel to watch? Okay, I'm glad you asked this because I was going to bring this up earlier. So back in the day, what was my favorite YouTube channel to watch? I really enjoyed John Levi back in the day, but I've gotten out of the habit of watching YouTube channels. Now, this isn't because I don't like them. It's because I have a great deal of respect for any and all other content creators that I want to make sure that I maintain originality in my content. So I've actually gotten out of the mentality of watching channels. The other thing is making these videos takes a little bit of time. I'd like to tell you I just wave my hand and they come together and the narration is just printed for me, but it doesn't quite work that way. So anyway, Sky Sage, when is your birthday? September, Sky Sage, September. We'll leave it at that. Like I said, it's the number on the channel page. I don't know if you caught that one, though. So, Risha, what was your favorite exploration to research? Oh, probably the favorite one to research was the Napoleonic conflict. Anne Marie Miller, do you ever use Reddit anymore? No, because I can't access it, and I was never given a reason why. Truth, truth, truth. Kathy, when are we going on a field trip? Well, maybe, channel gets bigger, I get the airship built. I don't feel good taking you all around on a bus. It's going to be an airship. So, yeah, Paul, they do say it's gold. That's for sure. It's not painted in. Do you believe the old world system taught the practice of uniting both brain hemispheres to reach union instead of division and confusion? I believe that there was a greater emphasis on internal health in the old world. And actually, we're going to do an exploration coming up here. We're really going to explore that. So, Rebecca, can we have a whole LA Q&A live episode? Well, RB, given your unique status as being a long time and now a Paragon member of the channel, it looks like I kind of have to. No, I think it's a good idea. We'll do a whole Q&A live episode. How about at the end of the month? Yeah, we may as well. So, anyways. Cynthia, I might not be a Virgo. Let's see. What else have we got? Roger, do you have an academic background in history? Yes, I do, but whatever that's worth to you, it's not worth to me what I used to think that it was. So, do I have a piece of paper somewhere that says something? Yes, but does it make me more qualified than anybody else? No. All right. Any more? Was there anybody else? Let me make sure I didn't miss anything here. Oh, yeah. We're on the question and answer session. So, Old World Delaware, can it be separate from the regular live? Yeah, I think it will be. I'll try something different. I'm all about trying new and different things. I got to make sure that we're not stuck in this repeating game pattern. I get bored with things easily. Philip. Oh, yeah, on Nellis. Well, where else would it be? Pyramid. Kathy, did you teach at U of L? Yes, in a guest capacity, but I was not tenured there or anything like that. John, most obvious signs to you that something is of the old world. Well, when I examine the construction materials, that's the most obvious physical sign. And when I'm doing research, when there's multiple conflicting accounts. Yeah, it's one of my patented sayings, John's got a little look, and for me, I've got conflicted accounts. No, I'm not familiar with Carrie Ann Azul. But like I said, I haven't really been watching much of YouTube lately, so. Miss me with it. Have you looked into China? I have looked into the caves. I think that's going to be a live stream, so. Hollis, what do you think of the Dune books? Trolley problem is an analogy for our present age. Very, very apt analogy, if you ask me, but that's just my impression. So, Barbara, what do you think the physicality of the planet is? I don't know, Barbara. I used to think that I did, but I've gone back and forth many times. And right now, honest answer, I'm undecided. You're welcome to think whatever you want to think it is, and I don't try to push it on people. But, I can see things that look flat, and then I can see other perspectives that go beyond that. I don't know. I just don't know. Do you watch TV? Once in a blue moon. But it's funny, as I've gone on my life, I used to watch a lot more TV when I was younger, and now I watch a lot less TV. So, I'm working on a Discord. Ooh, QCZ. The Dyatlov Pass incident. Yes. And I think that may be a live stream because I get the feeling that might be a landmine for a regular exploration. Or, excuse me, a landmine field if you follow me. So, Sovereign, Invisible, Untraceable. Any plans for underground content? Well, we did Underworld, the live stream exploration, but we might be following up with it in a little bit. So, John, do you believe there are any mainstream outlets or personalities that support or even expose the old world / Tartaria? Well, if they do, it's not going to be in the way that we think on it. And yes, there are, and there always have been. What else have we got here? Is this your full-time job, doing these videos? No, believe it or not, it is not. So, no, I'm not just sitting here in, the wealth of luxury, just waving my hands and making videos. I'm just teasing you, Philip. But no, I do have another full-time job. So, do you have a favorite cryptid? Let's see, RB. I don't know. That's a tough one. Let me get back to you on that one. I like them all. They're all interesting to me. What can I say? What's a guilty pleasure that you're willing to admit to us? Well, it used to be going to get Buffalo Wild Wings, but my last experience there was horrific, so it's on my permanent ban list. And the less I say about the company that owns that, the better, and I'm not going to go down to it. They did it to themselves. So I'd say my current guilty pleasure is probably a medium ribeye. No, sorry. Medium ribeye. Yeah, I know. But, I wouldn't call it an actual 9 to 5. Everything about my life has been very unique. I mean, I did have a 9 to 5 when I was teaching. Okay, let's see. Any other ones? Well, Philip, it's all about processes and sticking to processes that work and having flexibility. So I'll share that with you. What is your job? I am a breeder of exotic animals. That is my job. Kidding. Don't think I'm going to share exactly what my job is. I'll leave it to you to guess. You can probably guess, though. It's there's several clues to it. I'm not going to spell it out for you just yet. So, Vaughn, do you think the Teutonic Templar Knights were the source of the corruption? I don't believe they were the source. I think they were corrupted themselves in many ways. So, it's okay, Jeff. I maybe do it once a year nowadays. It's just that one guilty pleasure. So, Newers, I've noticed you talked about a lot of towns in and around Iowa. Have you spoken of Cedar Rapids? I have not, but Cedar Rapids is on the list. I don't like to call myself that anymore, but yeah, you could say I used to be one. So. All right, let me see here. Couple more, and then I think we'll call it. But yes, I got the comment from RB, and we will do an entire question and answer session. That will be separate from the live stream. So, let's see. Let's find a good one here. Or does anybody want to end with a good one? Oh, Hollis has a good one here. Do you think dark magic practice was a big cause of the destruction of the old world? I think it had a lot to do with it, but I also think it was a symptom of the corruption as well. So, anyways. And Philip, do you think the same group of people ruled Babylon, Rome, and now Western civilization? I don't know if I'd say ruled. I would say that the same civilization of people were definitely in those areas, yes, but probably a lot more widespread than we might like to think. Let's see. Sarah with an H. Man of mystery. Keep that alive. It keeps people interested and invested. Well, you know, you don't need to find out that I'm just some boring schmo who's watching game shows and will die alone with a house full of cats. Barbara Whedon, Outside Lands. Yes, strong possibilities. Both physically and then through access to what we may think of as other realities, other dimensions. I definitely think there's outside lands, but I could be wrong. Do you think the majority of history has been fabricated for the last 200 plus years? It's been manipulated. How about that? Vids of your mom. Can you show your animals sometime? No, I keep my animals close hold because, believe it or not, my animals would be a good way to identify me. So, anyway. All right, last question. Let's pick a real doozy here. Go ahead, someone light up a good one here. That's being modest. Yeah, well, what are you going to do? And so many people hate that laugh, let me tell you. You know, and I don't wonder if my department chair or my former department chair is here and, you know, says that because he couldn't stand it when I laughed. Drove him up a wall. Oh, here's a really good one. Okay, I'll end with these two really good ones that actually came in tandem, so just hold on here. Do you have the timeline pretty much figured out, you think? Absolutely not, lyrical reaction. In fact, the only thing I can tell you about the timeline is that it's inaccurate. Do I have it figured out? No. I have a lot of theories, and that's about it. Card, death. Don't know. You know what? I can tell you, I don't remember dying, and I don't remember a time I wasn't alive. Kathy, do your animals look like you? Ha 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 ha. I don't know. Maybe they do. Well, Lori likes to laugh. Well, thanks, Lori. So. Okay, Jamie, have you ever made lava with a Fresnel lens? No, not yet, but somebody else did once. Old World Do? You better believe it, Gregory. You better believe it. Lots of evidence, so. Okay, we'll end on this one from Jeff because Jeff just celebrated being a member of the Paragon Club, a year-long member. When does what happens to make the simulation get to the point it can't continue without a reset? Perhaps it's when there's too many overlapping realities and the nexus point has to be reset. That's one theory. Or there is some other controlling force that just arbitrarily decides it. That's another theory. So, anyways. Vaughn, fascies. Basically a jackknife of technology. It could do anything and everything. Movement, cutting, and be a weapon. Great question. I think I'll end it on that. So, anyways. So last and not least, I just want to say thank you all for being here. It was a very interesting week. A lot of interesting things happened that, always make me wonder what's going on with the channel myself. Because just like you, I have my own questions and I see things from my own perspective. But yes, I'm a legitimate human being here. I'm not some artificial intelligence. And I really appreciate everything that you share. And that's why the live streams mean the most to me. It's because I get the chance to interact with all of you. And I think you're all very wonderful people. And I really think that you are very, very awoken to your own nature. And that's why I respect you. And from the bottom of my heart, I want you all to find your own journey and find your own way. And believe and do what makes you happy. And most importantly, be your own person. Don't let anyone or anything ever take that away from you. And believe me, it'll continue to do so. So thank you all for being here. Yes, we are going to do a full question and answer session. And yes, it will be separate from the live stream. So anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this. I really did. And thank you for all your input. I will go back and I'll try to read all the comments from this and try to get to some of the other questions. And I hope you all have a wonderful week. And thank you for being here. And this is Lucius Aurelian signing off. You all have a great day, night, wherever you are.